Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with the blueprint. A major story here, federal government meets divided labor, pleads for patience. Some writers says we recognize valid grievances that fueled crisis. NLC TUC in separate meetings with Minister. Ajero frowns at government's double standards. You find all the details on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. To the Punch newspaper now, federal government, NLC meeting deadlocked. Workers insist on demands. Federal government, NLC meeting deadlocked. Workers insist on demands. Although the federal government has said that the meeting is open-ended, so we may not necessarily say it ended in a deadlock. Moving now to this Nigerian newspaper, federal government NLC meeting ends in deadlock. Federal government NLC meeting ends in deadlock. You find details on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. To the Nation newspaper now, Atiku Obi appeals raise concern over Supreme Court cases. Atiku Obi appeals raise concern over Supreme Court cases. You find the details on the front page of the Nation newspaper. All right, to the Daily Times now. Move to impeach Senate President Akpabio rumbles on. Move to impeach Senate President Akpabio rumbles on. All the details on the front page of the Daily Times. To the Nigerian News Direct, government agencies, oil companies failed to remit over $9.8 billion revenue to federal government. NEITI speaking. Government agencies, oil companies fail to remit over $9.85 billion revenue to federal government. NEITI speaking. All right. To the Daily Trust now, NNPCL, 12 others failed to remit $9.8 billion in 1 year. NEITI, that's the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, reacting there. NNPCL, 12 others failed to remit $9.85 billion in 1 year. Ibrahim.
Right, Leadership newspaper is the first with me here, and it has as the headline on the front page, amid National Assembly probe, NEITI uncovers $9.85 billion dollar debts owed federal government by oil firms. Others, amid NAS probe, NEITI uncovers $9.85 billion debts owed by federal government owed federal government by oil firms. Others. Business AM, global debt beats retreat for second year, but worries remain, says IMF, down to 238% of global GDP at $235 trillion. Global debt beats retreat for second year, but worries remain, says IMF, down to 238% of global GDP at $235 trillion. You find that on the front page of Business AM. Daily Independent is next. CBN default on FX backlog undermines investor confidence. CBN default on FX backlog undermines investor confidence. That's on the front page of the Daily Independent. Guardian newspaper is next. Nigerians bear 1 trillion naira metering burden as CBN, World Bank backpedal. Nigerians bear 1 trillion naira metering burden as CBN, World Bank backpedal. That's the Guardian newspaper. On the front page of the first newspaper, we have sacked acting CBN governor. Deputies defy President Tinubu on Cardoso's appointment. Sacked acting CBN governor. Deputies defy President Tinubu on Cardoso's appointment. That's on the front page of the first newspaper. Business Day is the last but not least. Bonus for shareholders as banks post bumper profits. Bonus for shareholders as banks post bumper profits. That's on the Business Day newspaper. I hope Veronica will be among those who will be
Receiving
getting
this bonus, right?
this bumper profit.
Interesting. But let's look at this story on some of the pages of the papers this morning, talking about the probe by the House of Representatives Committee, ad hoc committee, investigating crude oil theft and revenue loss in that aspect. Recall that the president had, at the beginning of his administration, talked about this matter of addressing oil theft, and he's beaming his searchlight on that so that we can generate as much revenue as possible. And so there's been startling revelations saying that since I think 2021, NNPCL and 12 others have failed to remit about $9.85 billion in the past 1 year, or much more, and that's a startling figure. 9.85 billion is a lot that can do
wonders.
I mean, I was looking for the right words in the economy as it stands, and there are reports that this is based on the fact that there has been collusion from some members of the regulatory agency and those in the oil and gas sector that are not allowing a successful remittance of these funds back into the coffers of government. And so they are also stalling and failing, not agreeing to appear before the ad hoc committee that are investigating these matters. This is the corruption that, Nigerians do not like to hear about. Because the layman on the streets is doing his job. And this is oil and gas that is meant to provide some succor. So we generate revenue from the oil and gas sector, and it's meant to provide some succor to the ordinary man on the street. But yet there are some persons who are not allowing the government to succeed in whatever plans in delivering on the dividends of democracy at the end of the day. How do we get these people is the challenge right now as we speak, because they are refusing to appear before the ad hoc committee.
And I think that the burden before this current administration, a lot of analysts, critics have actually called on the government, to the President Tinubu's administration, to probe, the NNPC, to probe this oil sector, maybe from 1999 up until, this time, or just look at the time frame to carry out the probe, because it's really sad when we have oil in abundance and we don't have enough, to go around. We talk about the first.
We're not seeing the impact.
The impact, yeah. So they are not even paying subsidy this time around. So what exactly is it that? What is the reason why they are not remitting? Independent Nigeria says $8.265 billion, whereas leadership says $9.85 billion. It's just very close. But even at that, it's a whole lot of money. We know that they just like you said, lots and lots of corruption, shady dealings have gone into the oil sector, and if care is not taken, they will run Nigeria aground, and that's what we are seeing, because a lot of things have really gone that we tend to ask ourselves: are these people Nigerians? Are they patriotic enough? Why
Obviously,
is it that
they are not. It's not a question at all. If you are patriotic, you wouldn't go this far to, stealing Nigeria blind.
It's a group of people, and they need to be fished out. They need to be prosecuted if found guilty, and that sector needs to be sanitized. Last administration, we had President Muhammad Buhari, who was the Minister of Petroleum. Currently now, President Tinubu also, did not appoint Minister of Petroleum. We felt that with that, there will be a lot of, cleansing of that particular oil sector. This time around, we are not sure exactly what's going to happen, but it remains to be seen what this administration will do, because that sector needs to be sanitized, needs to be cleared of, weeded of, bad minds, bad weeds, and those that are the unpatriotic saboteurs that are affecting the growth of this country, because we need this money to to develop the economy of Nigeria.
At a critical time like this.
Critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
We need this money to, this revenue to do a lot of things to better the lives of, common Nigerians.
Yeah.
So it's just so sad. It's so sad because we can't keep talking about the rot in the oil sector or any other sector. It's not only the oil sector per se, because according to NEITI, they said that the oil and gas industry reports show that collectible revenue due to Nigerian upstream, that's the Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission and Federal Inland Revenue Service, arising from NNPC and other companies stood at $8.265 billion within the period under review. So we are talking in dollars. We're not even talking in naira. Even if it's naira, it's a whole lot of money, let alone talking about, dollars because of the dollarization of our economy. So I feel this administration needs a lot to do, because we know that by the time they try to fight corruption, it will always fight back. So we'll see them, coming in different, angle to sabotage the effort of the government to cleanse this sector. So it's nothing that...
Let's see how far the ad hoc committee would go, because they are insisting that the heads of the Nigeria National Petroleum Limited, as the NNPCL, Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, and the Nigeria Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA, amongst others, must appear physically for the investigation. Why they are refusing to appear is a question. Are you saying you are not accountable? If you do not have any issues, why are you afraid, or why are you stalling at appearing before the committee? If you have a case to answer it. You have to answer Nigerians, because your responsibility is to Nigerians. You should come forward and respond to these questions if you know that there are no issues that you are trying to cover up at the end of the day, because right at the end of the day, Nigeria is the issue here, not just a few persons. Nigeria and Nigerians are the issues here. If it is good for one person, it should be good for everyone, not just a cross-section of persons.
That's right.
It has to spread, because this is why we are seeing the level of poverty rise, increase in criminality, and the likes, all the vices that we are seeing. And if we are not able to address matters of corruption, how then do we build trust in government to addressing these issues? How then do we see the dividends of democracy, which every Nigerian is looking forward to? These are the issues. Accountability, transparency must be ensured, especially in this probe. This is a whole lot of money.
You can expect that this current assembly, they should do a very good job. I'm not sure how much they are going to do this in terms of in the investigation. They are, the probe they are taking into it.
Now that they are facing resistance.
If they are taking it, wholeheartedly, if they're taking it serious, then expect a lot of drama as well. Because whether you see some of those who are supposed to account for the shady dealings, maybe they'll be fainting, or maybe some of them will have to be, all sort of, So let us see.
But then again, that reminds me, how far have all of the probes we have done over the years gone?
Where has it led us?
Where has it led us? What did we get at the end of the day? Nigerians will always remember. Some will just, you see, this is why they do not trust the government. So it will be good to see how the federal government handles this matter, because building trust with the people is key at this point. If we say that we want to probe, we must see the end of that probe, that people are brought to book, held to account. Yeah. Justice is seen to be done. And this money is channeled back into the society such that an average Nigerian can feel the impact of this money. Regardless
of who the person is, regardless of whose ox is God, such person must be brought to account for whatever it is that they've done so far. So that's why I said, I'm throwing my weight behind those who have called for this administration to probe the President Buhari's administration, to probe the Goodluck Jonathan's administration, and how they have, utilized this money, how much they've generated, how much they've remitted, and who failed to remit what, and what amount into what coffers. So these are the things these are the common questions that Nigerians are asking. They want to see that the government is able to get on this matter and get to the root of the problem.
Getting to the root, let's see how it goes in the coming days.